appointed spots. I appreciate that. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the city in which we live. Guide us this evening as we make our decisions. In Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
We can ask.
Thank you all, and I appreciate that.
We can ask that.
This is the regular city council meeting of July the 16th, 2024. You have the minutes from the regular meeting of June the 10th, 2024 before you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We adopt the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, appointments to board and commission. Mr. Cripco, do you have bicentennial?
Yes, I'd like to appoint Mr. Bob Shapiro, please.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. We appoint, or Mr. Cripco appoints Bob Shapiro to the bicentennial committee. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Ms. Jenkins, Christmas.
I need both of mine put on the next agenda.
All right, we can do that. Mr. Cripco, Convention Center Authority.
I'd like to reappoint Mrs. Krista Frost, please.
All right.
Second.
Motion is second. We reappoint for the Convention Center Authority. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next, Mr. Cripco, you're up with two more. Keep Newnan Beautiful as the first.
The next two to roll, please.
All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate that. The next item on the agenda this evening then are reports from by the city manager, and he does have recognition of participants in the mid-manager leadership.
Yeah, I do,
Mr. Phillip?
Mayor, Council. Really pleased to have some employees here tonight to recognize some of their achievements. It's actually the brainchild of Mr. Craver. He developed a mid-managers program, and we had 13 of our employees that went through the mid-manager program. It's about an 8-month program where they met and they would learn leadership techniques, learn a little bit about the operations of our operations, and learn a little bit more about each other and their personalities. It's just another opportunity to try to continue to groom our staff, to grow our staff, to give them opportunities within our team. I'm really proud of them, all of them. And Mr. Craver, he's going to hand out their certificates tonight to them real quick.
I think Mayor Brady may help.
Yeah, sure. Jesse. Jason Burnett. Lori Guinea. Congratulations. Thank you. Richard Hughes.
Richie.
He is a firefighter, you couldn't tell. It's obvious.
Chad King. Congratulations. Thank you. John Moore.
Thank you, sir.
Man, congratulations. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Scott Oates. Scott? Congratulations. Appreciate that. Yes, sir. Brian Parton. Okay. See you later, Jim. Meredith Sherwood. Thank you. Appreciate your help. And Samuel Phillips and Ricky.
Thank you.
And I would just echo what Mr. Phillips said. It's important that we continue to groom and to grow and to develop our middle management team because they are one rising up. We appreciate your hard work. Thank you. Okay, I don't have anything this evening. Under new business, this is a public hearing that I'm going to open for the application of alcohol beverage license on Grayson Trail. This is for the off-premise package sales of malt beverages and wine. The address is 101 Grayson Trail. The reason for this is a new business. I will open the public hearing and ask if anyone here would like to come forward to speak to the issue. Seeing no one to come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time and ask if there is a representative here today. Thank you for being here. We appreciate that very much. Ms. Shea, is everything in order? Thank you. I'll ask for a motion on the issue.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. We approve the application for alcohol beverage license at 101 Grayson Trail. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is also a public hearing. This is a consideration of a request to demolish the structure at 78 Swint Place. Mr. Partain, how are you again?
I'm good. How are you all?
This is a public hearing on this issue tonight, and I'm going to
Yes, sir.
open that public hearing at that time. Mr. Partain?
The address actually is 7B.
7B.
Swint
Okay.
Place. Yes, sir.
Should have worn my glasses. All right.
So the owner requested to demo the structure at the property built in 1948 according to tax records. It is not in a historic district. It adjoins it, but it is not in it. The cost to renovate would exceed the 50% of the assessed value, which is what we use to deem.
This is an opportunity
For
for
the
the public to
substandard.
come forward to speak to the issue of the request to demolish the structure at 7B Swint Place. Is there anyone here who would like to come forward and speak to this issue? Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion on the issue.
I have a question.
Question?
I don't see anything here about having looked at or asked the Historical Society or the African American Heritage Museum, was there any historical significance? Because what I'm seeing here is that the tax map considers it historic, but is not historical district. But there are a lot of historically significant properties that don't lie within our historic districts. So I'd like to know if there was any effort to find out more than just what's in the report about its significance historically.
Other than the historic districts that planning and zoning has posted, that's all I have to reference.
At one point, we were asking the Historical Society and others, and I don't know when that practice dropped off.
Several years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, Historical Society really doesn't offer the historic preservation services anymore.
Heritage preservation only.
Okay.
Okay. Public hearing is closed. I'll ask for a motion on the issue.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the request for the demolish the structure at 7B Swint Place. Any discussion or other questions? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is also a public hearing. This is a 2024 update of the capital improvements element, also known as the CIE, including the 2024 update of the short-term work program. Mr. Cole, how are you this evening?
Hey, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, and council members. I'm here for the public hearing for the 2024 update to the capital improvements element, including the 2024 update to the short-term work program. We have to adopt this every year, in particular the capital improvements element, because we charge impact fees here. And as we do every summer, we come before you for this public hearing. And we would appreciate you just opening it. And just to let you know, we'll be transmitting this next month at the August 13th council meeting.
Correct. Now, this is the opportunity for the public, all of you who are here tonight, to comment on the issue before us, the consideration of the capital improvements element. Now's your chance to come forward. Okay. No one come forward. I'm going to close the public hearing at this time and say thank you to Mr. Cole. We'll have this on our agenda at a later date. The next item is a consideration of amendment to resolution and agreement stating the use of funds received by the City of Newnan as a result of the National Opioid Settlement.
Yes, Mayor Brady, members of council, as you recall, in May of 2023, the council considered and approved a resolution and agreement with Coweta Force, a local provider of services, to receive funds that the City of Newnan has received beginning in 2022 as part of the National Opioid Settlement. The current agreement we have with Coweta Force ends at the end of this calendar year. The city will continue to receive funds in all likelihood out through 2038. But what we would like to do is we would like to have the support of the council to craft an amendment to the resolution and the agreement to extend this arrangement between the city and Coweta Forest for use of these funds for them to continue their peer recovery program. There's some information in your packet that talks to the success, not only of the organization, but actually the specific program that's been started and funded. So again, we don't have the ordinance, nor do we have the resolution here. What we're looking for is guidance and support from the council to allow the city attorney, myself, and others on staff to come back at a future date to extend this agreement up to 5 years. It will be on an annual basis, annual renewal basis, to continue funding this and expanding, in fact, the peer recovery program that Coweta Forest is employing with the National Opioid Funds.
I move that we support the staff in this and proceed.
Second?
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? I do know that Coweta Forest has been doing a fabulous job regarding, this program.
Yes,
And there's no reason why we shouldn't move forward with this. But
Piedmont Newnan has supported it. They're a willing partner. There's a letter in your packet that talks to their support of it. And, Hank is here from Coweta Forest, and, I'm sure happy to talk about it. If the council would like to hear from him.
So just a quick question, just to be absolutely clear, the settlement funds will fully fund all of this and potentially all the way through 2028, you said?
It could be, the way that the National Opioid Funds settlement funds are coming to the city, they come from different payers at different amounts on different schedules. So what I'm hoping is by the next time I'll be able to tell you, for instance, Walmart is going to pay $3,000 a year to the city until the year 20 fill in the blank.
Okay.
So we'll have a better idea. The acting administrator has yet to provide guidance on all the payers and what their amounts and schedules were going to be. That's why you don't frankly have the amendment in front of you right now. We wanted to be a little bit more concrete, but we wanted to see if the council was open to the idea of us continuing to move the money through the city directly to Coweta Forest instead of us trying to create a program. These guys are in that business. We'd much prefer allow them to remain in that business as experts instead of us.
And I believe that's the motion second we have before us to approve that.
And just another quick question, does the county get any funds, and are they supporting this at all?
It's my understanding that the county has decided to not participate, and so they're not a recipient of funds.
All right.
If y'all, council remember years ago, we decided, it was a long shot, but we decided to be part of it. And here we are today, benefiting from that decision. So I'll call the question unless there are other comments or statements. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next, Ms. Kelsey, is consideration of amendments to the 2023 fiscal year budget per the audit.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, City Council, I am pleased to report to you that the audit has been submitted to the state by the deadline of June 30th. There were a few additional adjustments or amendments that needed to be made that we need council approval on. We do plan to bring our auditor to visit with you to give an update on that report in August, but staff would recommend moving forward with these amendments. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions of Ms. Kelsey? How about a motion?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion a second. We approve the amendments as requested. Any discussion? Questions? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The next, Ms. Kelsey, also has consideration of an adoption agreement and the general addendum from the Georgia Municipal Association, the City of Newnan's defined benefit retirement plan. Ms. Kelsey?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Council. You'll remember that in January of this year, Council decided to freeze the defined benefit plan for new employees, and a 401A account was created for these new employees, where 10% matching funds were put into that account. We've made a transition from Mission Square to Core Bridge with our deferred compensation. All of that at this point has been completed, and all those funds have been transferred. So council kind of requested that we take a look at offering to employees what we would typically refer to a non-vested employee, which means that they haven't worked for the city for more than 10 years, the option, if they wanted to opt out of the that plan with GMA and instead have funds put in a 401A account. So a document really has been prepared to allow those employees that consideration, and it would require an amendment to that agreement and an ordinance change. Be glad to answer any questions that the council might have. I know that Mr. Shell is not here with us tonight. There was a window that was established in the ordinance that ran from July 17th, which is tomorrow, until September 13th, for those employees to make that one-time choice, whether or not they wanted to basically make an election to move to the A401A plan. So we may need to make some adjustment to that ordinance until our next meeting, which is August the 13th, for y'all to actually vote on that ordinance amendment.
Well, even if we vote on the ordinance amendment tonight, we don't have 7 people, so we're gonna have to vote on it a second time.
Right.
So, Mr. Sears, should we vote the first time and then vote on it the second time as amended?
Well,
Or-
it would, you could take a vote just to make sure that we
Right.
have a full council or don't have a full council at August 6th meeting.
Right, okay.
So what you would do is make a motion to, with the recommendation of the amendment of the effective date, subject to the second adoption.
Is there someone who will make a motion that Mr. Sears just verbalized?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Sears, appreciate that. And Ms. Kelsey. Okay, so the next, Mr. Smith, discussion on the post-council retreat topics, and the concept plan requirements for rezoning and annexation and application.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. You all tasked us shortly after your council retreat with discussing a variety of topics with the Planning Commission. Tonight is kind of a summary of the first of those topics, which has to do with the concept plan submittal requirement or process when it comes to annexations and rezoning petitions. You may recall that our ordinance does not currently require that someone submit a concept plan when they're filing for annexation or rezoning.
But if you don't mind me interrupting you, I can't remember the last time we had a rezoning request or certainly an annexation without some type of concept plan with it. Is that a?
Well, to when we did the northern piece off Highway 29 and the
Okay, that's
bypass,
right.
Yeah.
All right.
that 60% method, I believe it came in near Avery Park, it lacked a concept plan at that time, and also you'll be looking at one here shortly that lacks a concept plan as well.
Next item on the agenda.
Next item on the agenda. So, but we did go through the discussion. We looked at what other jurisdictions do within the state of Georgia, and we came up with a few bullet points. The commission felt like that concept plan requirements, if you decide to go forward with looking at ordinance changes, need to be consistent in both annexations and rezoning petitions. They also believe they need to be tiered based on the type of annexation or rezoning that's being requested. For example, residential, mixed-use development, those are more intense uses, and most of those are typically well fleshed out in terms of tree management plans, density calculations, street layouts, and the site elements are usually, and infrastructure elements are all part of that. Commercial, industrial, and sometimes office are less intense in some cases in their concept plans if one is provided. Overall, the commission felt like that if we move in this direction, it needs to be a tiered system, as I mentioned. They also discussed the fact that there are on occasion annexations or rezonings without a concept plan, and how do we want to handle those. A couple of ideas were discussed among the commission. One of the things that was brought up that was borrowed from another jurisdiction is that when they have an annexation or rezoning that does not involve a concept plan, but it's for commercial or industrial purposes, that they will condition those approval that if a user comes back, they will bring a site plan in, a concept plan in to their planning commission initially for like a site plan approval. Back in a while back, the planning commission used to do those. And then in their jurisdiction, they also go another step. They go back to their city council in a public hearing format with that particular applicant back with a concept plan of what they want to put on that property that was either rezoned or annexed into the city. That's something to consider. We're not making a recommendation one way or the other, but the commission did like that. The commission erred on the side of being transparent throughout that. They also liked the idea of that public hearing because it would get the community back engaged. Of course, the drawback may be if you bring in something that you give a general commercial zoning and you say you can have every use allowed in the zoning ordinance under the CGN, and someone comes in with that use, do you run the risk of, well, now you're saying no to that particular use, even though it may be allowed by the zoning ordinance. So the idea or suggestion that it may go back for a site plan recommendation, the planning commission at least would be favorable and not run the risk of, countermanding the ordinance in some cases. But that's kind of what they came up with. That's kind of what we've come up with. You have in there the information, kind of what we came up with as far as the elements of a concept plan, when they're required, when they're not necessarily required, for what type of application, what type of zoning. And we present that, that's the summary of that particular item, and we await your direction.
Comment?
I'll be honest, I need a little more time to ask some questions of staff outside of this, because this is a lot of detail to digest about what changed and what, because there's two options here. I don't know all the differences between those options and what they make. So, I mean, I would love to have another opportunity to talk to the staff about this before we decide to vote on something.
I feel the same way.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, let me ask you a question, just to put this in context. I'm trying to remember back, something similar to this. Was that like the rezoning request there at the corner, the intersection of Lower Fayetteville and Bypass East, where they proposed the grocery store, the Lidl grocery store, and then
No.
all of a sudden it didn't go, and now it's all residential?
No, this is one, no, that's not the same. This is talking about where you have a piece of property, and all you have is basically a survey of the property. There's no design element, there's no proposed user, there's no drawing of parking, infrastructure, buildings, and you're saying, we want to come into the city under this particular zoning, or we want to rezone this property for this particular use for future development. But we don't have a concept, we don't have a plan, we don't have a user at this particular moment. So what you all wanted us to look at, what the commission to look at was, is there a way to enhance that? Is there a way to refine that? Is there a way to give us another step so that we get the type of development that we think we're getting, that we want to have? And that's what we kind of came up with.
Because right now, if we approve something that was CGN, we've got a list, a chart that says these things are permitted, and if it's just approved without a plan, they come back in and they draw a plan of something that's permitted, how do you deny it?
Right.
If the ordinance says you permit this.
That's
So
right.
we understand, but there are questions, so, and I don't know that we're gonna hash them all out tonight, but certainly avail yourself of Mr. Phillips and staff who wanna meet, do whatever you need to do to get bring some clarity to everybody's thought on this, and we'll revisit. I don't
We
know
have
if it'll be-
future items coming to you probably in a couple months. You asked about a variety of topics for us to explore, and we've got
Sure.
some summaries of those too.
You have to be careful what you ask for. Okay. All right. So, is there a motion then to continue discussion on this item to a future date? I don't even know what, let's just leave it open. Is there a
I'd make
motion?
that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank
The next item on the agenda is rezoning request. There's no action needed here. This is for information only. RZ 2024-02 by Robert Dollar for .48 plus or minus acres located at 65 Millard Farmer Industrial Boulevard, tax parcel N57A91, from CGN General Commercial to Heavy Industrial for the purpose of additional outdoor storage. And as, again, no action needed here. This is for your information only. The next item on the agenda, Mr. Phillips, is a consideration for recommendation for comprehensive program services for SPLOST and park design.
I think I have that, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you do, Ms. Kelsey? Okay.
Yes, sir. We recently released an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications from some engineering firms for design services for the Bicentennial Park as well as the Greenville Street Park. We had a number of interested parties. Staff would recommend council approve us moving forward with the rank order. At this point, GMC was ranked number 1 by all of our committee members in this process. We will need to negotiate with that vendor, and we would request your permission. And we haven't negotiated price at this point, but if we need to move down that list, we'd like your permission to use the rank order list to move forward with these design services for our park systems with SPLOST dollars.
Any questions of Ms. Kelson? Is there a motion on the issue?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve as presented, GMC for services, program services for SPLOST parks, design and professional services. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carried. Now, next on to unfinished business is the second final reading of ordinance to amend the code of ordinances, speed limits on specific streets. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion second to approve on second final reading. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. We have nothing tonight under visitors' petitions.
Mr. Mayor, I
yes.
apologize to interrupt, but didn't notice how Ms. Jenkins voted.
Oh, sorry, voted yes.
Thank you.
Okay, on that last item.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as I said, we don't have anything under visitors, so we move into the need for an executive session.
Mr. Mayor, if I might just real fast
Yes, sir.
interject. One of our sitting members, volunteers on our commissions, passed away just recently. I'd like the city, if we could, make sure we make a meaningful statement to her family for her years of service and her dedication to the city.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. We appreciate that.
And that's
Mayor Pro
Brenda
Tem.
Brenda Jessel.
Yeah, that was Mrs. Brenda
yeah,
Jessel, so, yeah, the Jessel family. So and our hearts go out to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Ready to go?
I am.
All right, here we go. I move that we now enter into a closed session allowed by OCGA 50-14-4 and pursuant to the advice by the city attorney for the purpose of discussing real estate. And that we, in open session, adopt a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor or the presiding officer to execute an affidavit in compliance with OCGA 50-14-4, and that this body ratify the actions of council taken in closed sections and confirm that the subject matters of the closed session were within the exceptions permitted by the open meetings law.
Second.
Motion is second. We go into executive session to discuss real estate. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here this evening. We appreciate your time.